How was this one for you?
She was my favorite, and I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but she was my favorite.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
What made her your favorite?
I just felt like, I don't know, honestly. I was like, well, first of all, I never really connected my social anxiety with my need to be I should have. It's so obvious. It's so obvious. But I never connected my social anxiety with people pleasing or just being appearing perfect all the time or that kind of stuff. I just really appreciated her so much, and I kind of wish that was been a typical therapy experience for me. You know what I mean? You were right. She was able to get there pretty quickly, and I didn't necessarily feel like I was being dissected, which is how these things go. You know what I mean? You're on the operating table and you're a frog, and they cut you, and then you just sort of bleed to death on the table. I think I just sold therapy to everybody. Oh God, Jesus Christ, kill me. But no, it's not supposed to be like that. It's not supposed to be like that. So it was nice that that it wasn't like that. And I feel like I'm not gonna say it was a breakthrough, but just to have to be able to put something together that I hadn't been able to put together in 38 years of my life says a lot. Even though it's so obvious now that I think about it. But
will you do anything with that? Will you take that?
Yeah, definitely.
What do you think you'll do with that?
Well, instead of just thinking of social anxiety as this thing that I have, I'll be able to be okay, this is where this is coming from. That's why I like feedback so much always, is because if I know where something is, not to say wrong, but basically where there's a maladaptive tendency or something is wrong, right? Then I can fix it. So my social anxiety is so bad that I've even gotten out of group projects by having a doctor sign a note. And if I have to stand up in front of the class, I just won't go into class that day. But now I can be okay, so this is what this is. This is me trying to present myself in the best possible light. And that's kind of arrogant, honestly. What about everybody else? What do they, you know what I mean? It's sort of arrogant, and I don't want to be arrogant. So instead of just trying to present myself as perfect, I can just be awkward, I guess.
If you had a choice, if you could, would you do therapy again if you could?
Yeah, I don't know if I felt like we talked about this, but yeah, I would. It would just have to be a very specific situation, and it would have to be something that had been, you know what I mean? I do feel really fragile right now, and in the past, I was taken out in handcuffs on Madison Avenue. That's how bad therapy can get. You know what I mean? So when I'm literally being handcuffed in my therapist's office because the situation was so triggering, and this is the best therapist, what does that say about how destabilizing the experience can be?
Do you feel differently than you did?
Yeah.
Before?
Yeah. Before it was a hard no on therapy. A hard no, a hard and fast no. But now it's okay, I've been reminded that the experience doesn't have to be just uniformly awful. Yeah, I felt a little bit more empowered, actually. Yeah.
I think what are the sort of big takeaways from these 3 sessions? If you name the things that you absorbed from the sessions that were valid, and then some things that you're that's bullshit.
I'm glad that you're putting it like that, because it's definitely, it's a cool thing to think about. Avoidance, I didn't realize that. I knew that I was doing it, but I didn't know that it was such, it's such a thing. You know what I mean? I didn't realize it was such a thing that I was doing to the extent that I'm doing it, to where it's almost maladaptive. And the next one would be the alcoholism thing, although I don't think it's alcoholism. I just think it's a coping mechanism where I drink too much. That needs to stop. That needs to stop. And then the social anxiety thing. And then there was one other one. Yeah, I guess I'd be hard on myself, but I don't know who's not hard on themselves. And if I weren't hard on myself, I don't know if I would ever be able to do anything to move forward. So maybe that one is kind of where people are oh, you're I just feel like it's bullshit when people say stuff like that. It's oh, you're interesting and da-da-da, that kind of stuff. I'm isn't everybody, you know what I mean? Part of me wants to take it and be oh, thank you for saying that kind of stuff. But really, I'm everybody's interesting. Literally everybody is interesting. Not figuratively, literally. If you ever talk to somebody, they all have a story. Pretty much. Okay, not literally. There's some pretty boring people out there. Figuratively, yeah, never mind. But most people are interesting when you get to know them. And so it's kind of like, I feel like people say that and it's just sort of like lip service. And that kind of like turns me off a little bit. But other than that, like the other stuff was really good. Like I can't wait to avoid and be aware of it.
I'm curious, like how you treat and interact with other people that have BPD, and what it might look like if you treated yourself like that.
This is going to sound really mean, but Rebbie might be the only other person with BPD that I don't like get annoyed by.
Why?
I mean...
Or why do you get annoyed by them and why?
I mean... Sometimes it's just like, it's a lot to take. It's a lot to handle. And so I can understand why therapists would have like issues with it. Like it can be, like I had one friend who kind of just like goes off on me sometimes and it doesn't make sense. And it makes me understand what it must be like for other people to be on the receiving end of me. There's like this, there's fragility, there's emotional fragility in it. And it comes out almost like in this obsessive way. And I feel bad saying that, but it's a lot sometimes. So I don't want to be that way. I don't want to be outside of my friend's apartment playing Imagine Dragons for an hour because I want to go to a concert, something like that. Or I don't want to like go off on my friend because she doesn't necessarily want to talk to me, things like that. Or sometimes people have like this narcissistic side to them, and I don't want to be like, I don't want to think that I'm better than anybody. I don't at all. I don't. Sometimes I'm worried that I do think I'm like a little bit, like I think like I'm better than people, but I don't want to feel that way. I don't. This Otto said, like, maybe she has narcissistic personality disorder. It's like, no, Otto, you're just an asshole. I hope he sees that. You're just an asshole, Otto. I know you came up with narcissistic personality disorder, but you're just an asshole. Like, if you go to his Wikipedia page, you'll break your thumb, like, just scrolling, because it's like, he's done so much. And here I am, like, I haven't really done anything with my life, but you're an asshole. He is, though. Okay.
I have just one last tiny little question. So, if anything, what do you do with what you experienced here in the East Coast?
Like, I'll just take the part about, especially the part about avoidance, and I'm going to try to not avoid as much as I do, because I don't want it to, like, manifest itself and then, like, 20 years from now I kill people, because that's how that happens. I mean, really. Like, all of a sudden it's like, oh, she was so nice. She had the best garden. Like, she had the best, like, bougainvilleas, or however you say that, flower or whatever. And then, like, she's murdered her husband. I don't want that kind of thing to happen. I don't want that to happen at all. Like, they black out because they're so angry, and then they've murdered somebody and they don't remember it. I can actually genuinely tell you that could happen, because I get so angry. And I don't remember things when I get that angry. And not because of alcohol, but because I just don't remember it because I'm so angry. And I really don't want that to happen like 20 years from now. Because I've been like keeping it all to myself. And then all of a sudden, I'm stabbing people. That would be terrible. That's not how I want to go out. I feel like, honestly, I feel like I was so angry when I was in high school that I would have been like the type of person that would have turned into a school shooter. Like, that's how angry I was. And I'm not saying that lightly. I'm saying that seriously. So, I mean, I don't want to be that way. So when people are like, well, you're avoiding, like, that's how angry I was. Okay. That's such a great note to wrap it up on.